And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is about Casanova from Orlando, Florida, on this awesome international podcast, Good Wine and Good Laughs, the podcast for wine lovers, ladies and gents. Summer movies, reviews, and hot top discussion, ladies and gents. I'm Casanova, your host. Welcome to Casanova. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, what I do here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., I have the wine of the day, ladies and gents. I'm going to open this wine here shortly. I'm going to give some information about what this wine is all about. I will taste it and I'll give my rate from 1 to 10. If you like my review, if you like to know more about this wine, ladies and gents, the picture is going to be available on all my social medias, such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all this good stuff right there. Uh, what's the name? There's another face fan base, ladies and gents, is another social media that I have a profile right there too as well. Okay, so and during the summer movies of June and July, I take a break of our topic discussions and I go to the movie theaters or any movies that come out on the major platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so forth. If I think I'm going to like this movie, I watch it, I make a review, ladies and gents, I let you know what the movie is all about. Okay, and the rest of the year, what I do is hot topic discussions after the wine of the day, and hot topic discussions, ladies and gents, are topics that can affect our lives directly or indirectly. So if you love wine, ladies and gents, if you love summer movies, reviews, and hot topic discussions, this YouTube channel is for you. If you like the work that I do, ladies and gents, I ask only for 3 things. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the like button of any videos that watch, and share any video that watch with at least 5 people you know. I appreciate your support, ladies and gents. So before I start talking about the topic of the day, let's talk about today's Saturday, first of all, March the 21st, 2026, and the weather here in Orlandito is going to be mainly sunny, highs of 82 degrees and lows of 25. It's already hot already. Jesus have mercy. I know this summer is going to be scorching hot. All right, ladies and gents. So let's talk about the wine of the day. This week I was kind of busy, so I was trying to rush in the wine store. I'm looking for wine, look, and then I found this right here. Route 1 is a Cabernet Sauvignon, ladies and gents. Let's see right here. It's from Maple Valley, Chile. They say here, this is the first winery to be certified 100% sustainable by Wines of Chile. Red wine, and stay right here, Cabernet Sauvignon from Maple Valley. Red berry and mocha flavors, fully bodied and balanced with a smooth and lengthy finish. With a long growing season, the warm days and cool nights of the state vineyard in the Maple Valley provide an ideal environment for the late ripening Cabernet Sauvignon grape to reach its maximum potential. Ooh la la. Say right here, the alcohol percent of this wine is 13%, ladies and gents. I have several wines from Chile, and say right here, there's a label on top say the 2024 New World Winery of the Year, Viña del Año, by Wine Enthusiast. Wine Star Awards. The 2024 winner, ladies and gents. So, okay, the hype is high about the Route 1. So far, I told that before, I'm going to say that again. My number 1 wine maker from Chile is Papi. All the Papi wines bottles that I had, I love them all. And they are part of my wine collection as well. Gents. So let's see the root. The root is on fire. Let's see, ladies and gents, what this wine is all about. Okay, I love this beautiful ruby red color. the bouquet of this wine is basically common, like the Cabernet Sauvignon. Definitely rich in tannins. It is not dry, of course. I believe I would say this is a dry red wine in my personal opinion right here, because I have some Cabernet Sauvignon, especially Poppy. They are not dry. They are very smooth, very delicious. But this one right here, for those that love red wine, you're definitely gonna like this one. I'll give this wine. I'm gonna hold on to on my rate as far as this wine is concerned, because, ladies and gentlemen, I cooked some short ribs and some jasmine rice I'm about to eat while I'm watching this with you, and I know for sure that it's different when you eat some good, delicious red meat with pairing with the wine. And once I give my 2 cents, I'll give you my rate, because right now, I would say I would give an 8, but it may change it. So like I said, let me eat, watch this video with you, and then I'll give my final rate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's jump on topic of the day for season 12, episode 11. As you saw on the thumbnail, the topic is, why is the Strait of Hormuz so important to the global economy, ladies and gentlemen? I like to give credit to Planet VISTA K. They have this awesome video. I reached out to the creator, and they gave me the permission to use it, as long as I give the credit like I always do. So once again, thank you, the creator of the Planet VISTA K, for this video about on the Strait of Hormuz. CBS News, ladies and gents, and the Young Turks. All right, so let's jump right on this video right here. While I eat this delicious short ribs and some jasmine rice that is delicious. It's smelling good here beside me. And then at the end of the 3 videos, I come back and give you my 2 cents what I think about today's topic. So it is showtime.
The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most dangerous pressure points on Earth, a narrow corridor, a global fault line. Between Iran and Oman, this passage carries a vast share of the world's energy, with much of its crude oil moving toward Asia. Warships patrol nearby. Constantly, radar stations track the water. Satellites watch from above. Fast attack craft, coastal missiles, drones, and naval mines turn confined sea into a field of calculation. Every route feels exposed, every signal matters, and a single confrontation could shake shipping lanes, energy markets, and political stability far beyond the Gulf. And yet Hormuz is more than tension. Beyond the military shadow lie red beaches, where red sand blends with the waves like ink spilled on paper. The Mineral Valley paints a vibrant spectrum of colors. The cold salt caves glisten. The ancient fortress overlooks the sea. Come with us now and see Hormuz beyond the headlines, where danger, history, and hidden beauty meet at the edge of the sea. The Strait of Hormuz lies between Iran and Oman, linking the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the wider Arabian Sea. This region controls up to 21% of total global oil consumption.
Damn.
In particular, over 70% of the crude oil flowing through the strait is destined for Asian economies, making it a core national security issue for China, Japan, and India. Military presence never feels accidental. Warships from several nations operate in nearby waters. Escort missions, surveillance flights, and maritime drills unfold against a horizon that appears calm but rarely relaxed. The geography leaves little room for maneuver. Every vessel follows a defined path. Every movement is noticed. A narrow corridor of water, but being watched carefully by the superpowers. In this confined space, distance feels shorter and decisions feel heavier. Its power comes from concentration. A vast share of global seaborne oil trade passes through this narrow gate each day, along with a significant portion of the world's liquefied natural gas shipments. Energy markets on distant continents depend on ships crossing these waters without interruption. One delay here can ripple across refineries, shipping routes, and financial centers far away. That is the paradox of this place. The global economy speaks in enormous numbers and vast networks, yet so much of its energy still passes through a passage only a few dozen kilometers wide. Here, control does not always require conquest. Sometimes it requires nothing more than the power to interrupt.
Go!
A quiet island, a hard edge of strategy. Keshem lies along Iran's southern coast, stretched beside the Strait of Hormuz like a long stone gate. To one side, the Persian Gulf narrows toward the open sea. To the other, Iran's mainland gathers ports, radar, and military infrastructure. The island appears dry, exposed, almost austere. Yet the calm is deceptive. These waters carry a large share of the world's traded energy, and Keshem stands close enough to watch that movement at intimate range. In 2024, about 20 million barrels of oil moved through Hormuz each day, along with roughly 1/5 of global liquefied natural gas trade. From ground like this, geography becomes leverage. Shipping lanes compress. Surveillance shortens distance. A vessel passing through the strait does not merely cross water. It enters a field of calculation. That is why militarization feels built into the landscape. Iranian naval and missile forces operate across this corridor, and Keshem sits near that architecture of pressure. The logic is ancient enough. Control the threshold, and you influence everything beyond it. On modern maps, the method has changed very little. Only the sensors improved. And here is the island, which has the same name as the tension strait. Hormuz Island sits beside the inner curve of the strait that links the Persian Gulf to the wider Arabian Sea. Radar stations scan the channel. Patrol boats move through the traffic lanes. Military outposts overlook one of the most monitored passages on Earth. Across the wider strait, Iran operates dozens of fast attack craft designed for swarm tactics, supported by coastal missile batteries and naval bases spread along the shoreline. Anti-ship missiles, such as the Noor and Qadir, reach well over 100 kilometers, placing most of the strait within range. Unmanned aerial vehicles and surveillance drones extend that visibility even farther. In some sections, the shipping lanes themselves narrow to only a few kilometers in each direction. Large tankers must follow these predictable routes. Military planners understand the implication immediately. A small island near a narrow gate becomes more than land. It becomes position. Not only Iran, Oman also joins the military and political chessboard at the Strait of Hormuz. A wall of mountains meets the sea. The water narrows into calculation. The Musandam Peninsula forms the northern tip of Oman, thrusting into the Strait of Hormuz like a stone gate. From above, the coastline fractures into long, fjord-like inlets that hide harbors and observation points. Across the narrow channel lies Iran. Between them passes one of the most sensitive maritime corridors on Earth. The inbound and outbound shipping lanes each measure only a few kilometers across, separated by a small buffer of open water. Every tanker entering or leaving the Persian Gulf must follow these tight routes. Predictable routes invite surveillance. Surveillance invites strategy. Here, Oman acts as the eye coordinating traffic with a radar station located atop Jebel Harim mountain over 2,000 meters high. Their mission is to operate the traffic separation scheme, a strict maritime traffic rule designed to prevent collisions in tight spaces. Military presence also reflects that reality. Iranian naval forces operate hundreds of patrol craft, missile boats, and coastal defense systems along the northern shoreline of the strait. Anti-ship missiles, with ranges exceeding 100 kilometers, place much of the corridor within reach. Across the water, Western and regional navies maintain patrol rotations to escort commercial vessels and monitor the passage. That is why Musandam matters. The mountains do not simply overlook the sea, they overlook leverage. In a corridor this narrow, geography becomes strategy. The radars of both sides are constantly locked onto each other 24/7. When passing through this narrow corridor, the sailors felt as if gun barrels were pointed directly at them from both sides. Between Larak Island and the Musandam Peninsula, the Strait of Hormuz contracts to about 33 kilometers at its narrowest point. Yet the usable shipping lanes are far smaller, only about 3 kilometers wide in each direction, divided by a narrow buffer. That geometry forces some of the world's most valuable cargo into disciplined, predictable lines. In some recent years, nearly 1/3 of the world's seaborne oil trade has crossed this single choke point. Thousands of commercial vessels navigate the corridor annually, carrying energy that fuels industries, cities, and power grids across multiple continents. Fast attack craft, coastal missile batteries, drones, and patrol aircraft all gain value when space is this compressed. In a wider sea, surveillance observes. Here, it can pressure. This is not just a passage, it is a trigger point. There were times when American warships and Iranian patrol boats sailed so close that soldiers on both sides could clearly see each other's faces through binoculars. They can even hear each other's challenging radio broadcasts amidst the sound of the waves.
Everywhere. Man.
Red stone above quiet water, walls facing a restless strait. The Portuguese fort of Hormuz rises from the red soil of the island like a fragment of another century. Its thick walls overlook the narrow sea, where the Persian Gulf meets the open waters of the Arabian Sea. Wind moves through broken corridors. The air carries salt and desert dust. From the ramparts, the horizon remains wide and deceptively calm. The fortress was built in the early 16th century after Portuguese forces seized control of Hormuz, seeking to command the maritime trade routes between India, Persia, and Arabia. Stone by stone, they shaped a citadel designed to guard one of the most valuable passages in the known world. Ships once approached these waters carrying spices, silk, pearls, and silver from distant ports across the Indian Ocean. Up close, the structure feels weathered but patient. Red earth mixes with coral stone in its walls, Empty arches frame the sea beyond. The sound of waves reaches the courtyard long after the soldiers have gone. Empires changed, trade routes shifted, yet the fort still watches the same strait, a quiet witness beside a passage that has rarely lost its importance. White wind towers above a quiet harbour, a town shaped by wind and water. Laughed Old City stands along the northern coast of Kishim Island, facing the tidal channels of the Persian Gulf. Narrow alleys wind between houses built of coral stone, clay, and sun-baked earth. Above them rise dozens of tall windcatchers, slender towers designed to pull cool air down into shaded rooms. When the wind arrives from the sea, the towers whisper softly across the rooftops. For centuries, this small port watched the busy waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Sailors from Arabia, Persia, and the Indian Ocean once anchored here, carrying goods along trade routes that linked distant coasts. Laugh's harbour and nearby mangrove forests offered shelter for wooden dhow vessels navigating the tidal flats of the Gulf. Today, the town feels slower. Sunlight warms the stone courtyards. Fishing boats drift near the shore. Yet the wind towers still rise above the village skyline. Quiet reminders of a community that learned long ago how to live with heat, sea, and time. You may not expect this, but on a militarized island like Keshim, there is a traditional craft that has been listed in UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. That's the traditional skills of building and sailing Iranian lenge boats in the Persian Gulf, which has been recognized in 2011. Along the shores of Keshim Island, traditional shipyards stretch beside the calm waters of the Persian Gulf. Here the skeletons of wooden vessels rise slowly from the sand. Thick beams curve upward like ribs. Craftsmen move carefully across the frames, shaping planks with saw, hammer, and patient hands. The rhythm of tools carries across the yard. Wood answers with a hollow, steady sound. These vessels belong to a long maritime tradition of the Gulf. For generations, shipbuilders on Keshem have constructed large wooden dhows that once carried cargo and travelers between Persia, Arabia, India, and the coast of East Africa. Even today, some of these ships measure more than 30 meters in length, built almost entirely by hand using techniques passed from master to apprentice. Up close, the craft reveals quiet precision. Curved planks meet without visible gaps. Ropes tighten the structure before metal fastenings are set into place. When a finished vessel finally touches water, the harbor grows briefly silent. Another ship has joined the old routes of the Persian Gulf. If you're still surprised, we will reveal you another UNESCO heritage site at Keshem Island, Keshem Geopark. Keshem Geopark stretches across the great island that guards the Strait of Hormuz. Here, the land appears carved rather than built. Narrow canyons twist through pale rock. Wind moves through them with a low, hollow voice. Hard sunlight burns across exposed ridges before falling suddenly into shadow. The island reads like an open geological manuscript, layer after layer. Nothing here feels young, very old ground. This landscape forms the Middle East's first UNESCO Global Geopark. Across the island, erosion reveals salt domes, folded sedimentary hills, and long valleys shaped by water that vanished ages ago. In places, the rock crumbles like dry clay beneath the hand. In others, it shines with crystals of salt. Yet life finds space here. Mangrove forests breathe along the tidal shores. Birds cross the quiet sky above the valleys. Wind returns again and again through the stone corridors. The island listens patiently, Earth writing its slow story.
Very interesting. Whoa, look at that.
Let's temporarily forget about the military equipment and political tensions on Hormuz Island. We will show you where stone becomes color, and geology becomes art. This is Rainbow Valley on Hormuz Island, a small volcanic island near the entrance of the Persian Gulf. The ground here reveals an astonishing palette of minerals, where layers of iron oxide, sulfur compounds, and salt deposits stain the hills in bands of vivid color.
Beautiful.
The valley feels almost unreal. Slopes of crimson earth descend beside ridges of gold and orange. Dark volcanic rock appears between them like brushstrokes on an enormous canvas shaped by heat, pressure, and time. No human hand can ever arrange these colors. The planet did. Wind moves softly across the valley floor, carrying grains of brightly tinted sand along narrow paths between the hills. With every storm and rainfall, the landscape reshapes itself, mixing minerals into new patterns across the desert ground. Here, the island of Hormuz reveals a hidden laboratory of minerals. The forces beneath the crust have quietly painted one of the most extraordinary landscapes in the Persian Gulf.
Man.
What kind of island hides rivers of salt beneath its surface? What kind of mountain slowly dissolves into caves of crystal and shadow? Deep within Hormuz Island lies one of the Persian Gulf's most unusual landscapes. The Hormuz Salt Cave winds through a vast salt dome pushed upward from deep beneath the Earth's crust, where pressure slowly lifted ancient mineral layers toward the surface. Salt above, salt below, silence between. Inside the cave, the air cools quickly. Walls of white and amber salt shimmer under faint light, reflecting subtle tones of gold, pink, and gray. The surface feels smooth in some places, jagged in others, where mineral crystals have grown over centuries. Small streams of mineral water sometimes trickle through the cave floor, dissolving salt and carving narrow channels deeper into the rock. Drop by drop, the cavern continues to reshape itself in slow geological time. From the outside, Hormuz appears dry and rugged, yet beneath its colorful hills flows a hidden world of crystals and underground chambers. Stone dissolving, time working patiently, and the Earth slowly transforms solid rock into a luminous labyrinth of salt and shadow. A narrow sea channel winds between towering desert mountains. Calm water reflects cliffs of stone and shadow. These are the Arabian fjords of the Musandam Peninsula, where rugged mountains plunge steeply into the blue waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Over thousands of years, tectonic forces lifted these limestone ranges, while the sea slowly carved deep inlets between them. From the water, the cliffs appear immense. Layers of pale rock rise in quiet steps above narrow bays and hidden coves. The sea moves gently through the channels, its color shifting from deep blue to bright turquoise near the shore. Traditional wooden boats glide across the surface. Fishermen travel between small coastal villages tucked into sheltered inlets along the rugged shoreline. Wind moves along the cliffs. Seabirds circle the high ridges. Despite their dramatic scale, the Arabian fjords remain peaceful places where mountains, sea, and human life share the same narrow spaces. Here in Musandam, the desert does not end at the shore. It simply falls into the sea, creating one of the most striking coastal landscapes of the Arabian Peninsula.
Beautiful.
A pale mountain rises above the Arabian fjords. Wind moves quietly across its high ridges of stone. Jebel Harim stands as the highest peak of the Musandam Peninsula in northern Oman. The mountain's slopes reveal layers of ancient limestone formed beneath a prehistoric ocean, long before the Arabian Peninsula rose from the sea. Fossils of coral and marine shells still appear in the rock, reminders that these desert heights were once underwater. Stone terraces descend through narrow valleys. The landscape feels harsh, yet life persists in surprising ways. Arabian tar climb the steep cliffs with quiet precision. These agile mountain goats move easily across ledges where few predators can follow. Nearby, desert foxes travel through rocky ravines at dusk, searching for insects and small prey. Above the slopes, birds circle the rising air. Egyptian vultures glide along the mountain thermals, while kestrels hover briefly before diving toward the ground and give an instant kill to a rabbit. Stone, wind, hidden life. Despite the dryness, scattered shrubs and hardy grasses grow in pockets of soil between rocks. These plants sustain the animals that survive here, forming a fragile ecosystem shaped by heat, wind, and altitude. On the silent slopes of Jebel Harim, the desert mountain reveals that even the harshest landscapes can quietly support life. And this is the final destination of the journey through the Strait of Hormuz, Kumzar, a remote village at the northern tip of Oman's Musandam Peninsula. Isolated by rugged cliffs and deep fjords, the village remains accessible mostly by boat. Life moves gently in Kumzar. Fishing boats leave the harbor at dawn, returning with the day's catch from the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Nets dry along the shore. Children walk narrow paths between stone houses that face the sea. The people here speak Kumzari, a rare language found almost nowhere else in the world.
Yeah.
It blends elements of Persian, Arabic, and older regional dialects, reflecting centuries of maritime trade that once passed through these waters. Small village, ancient culture, a language that survived the mountains. The paradox feels quiet but powerful. While modern cities grow across the Gulf, Kumzar remains rooted in rhythms shaped by fishing, weather, and tradition. Wooden boats still rest on the sand. Voices travel across the harbor in a language carried through generations. In Kumzar, culture endures not through isolation alone, but through a deep connection between sea, mountain, and community. The journey through the Strait of Hormuz comes to a close, and the tension is still there, like a line stretched across the surface of the sea. No one can say with certainty when the conflicts will end. But you will remember the red sand touching the waves. You will remember the cliffs and mineral valleys like a painting that has not yet been given a name. You will remember the cold, shimmering salt caves and the ancient fortresses looking out over the sea like guardians of time. Hormuz, therefore, is not only a military hotspot, it also carries a strange kind of allure. Even along one of the most tense maritime routes on Earth, nature still calmly creates its gentlest moments. If this journey has helped you see the world with greater clarity, continue traveling with us by subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again on the next journeys ahead.
Great video, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, go to Planet VISTA 4K. Subscribe to the work that they do. Outstanding. Outstanding.
When it comes to oil, there is no substitute for the Strait of Hormuz. It is a critical shipping lane whose narrowest point runs directly through Iranian territorial waters. Oil flows through this choke point, about 20% of the world's supply. That traffic is largely one way from the Middle East outwards. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, no strait, no business. And Iran has just shut it down.
Iran is vowing to attack any ship trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
Iranian media reports that authorities have been ordered to set any ship trying to pass through on fire.
This entire area has just been designated high risk by an international federation of transport workers who are paid to traverse it. That designation is a warning and also an entitlement, granting those on board the right to refuse to sail through. So what happens if oil stops flowing? And can the US kickstart it back up again? Let's try to answer that question. One important thing to understand about the consequences of sealing the strait is what actually allows Iran to do that in the first place. It's not a function of law, it's one of force and the threat of force.
The Strait of Hormuz can't be closed like a garden fence, right? There's no physical blockage. If Iran has the will and it still has the means, it can make passage unsafe.
Technically, the narrowest part of the strait is just over 30 kilometers across. That number matters because it would, on its surface, ordinarily mean that control of the strait legally belongs to Iran and Oman. That's because under international law, a country can count just over 20 kilometers from shore as their territorial waters. Iran and Oman's claims overlap, so the strait is theirs. Except for a UN provision for passageways like the Strait of Hormuz, considered a strait used for international navigation. The law's core guarantee that all ships and aircraft enjoy the right of transit passage, which shall not be impeded. And there's a more specific provision, which applies directly to Iran in this case. States bordering straits shall not hamper transit passage. So Iran's unilateral shutdown of the strait is not something with an easy legal resolution, because, strictly speaking, it's already illegal. What that means is that no one knows for how long the strait may stay closed, because what's closing it is almost entirely at Iran's discretion, and damage has already occurred.
Oman's Maritime Security Center says an oil tanker has been attacked in the Strait of Hormuz, injuring 4 crew. Meanwhile, in another incident reported north of the capital, Muscat, an unknown projectile is said to have struck a vessel.
And what that means is that the outcome of closing the busiest oil shipping lane on the planet is unknown. But let's try to work through it anyway.
Going high.
About 20 million barrels of oil traveled through the Strait of Hormuz per day last year. You crunch the numbers on that. That's more than 30,000 tanker trips and at least $500 billion worth of energy trade. Again, in 1 year. Most of that oil heads east.
China, India, South Korea, Japan. Europe also buys a good deal of refined products like gasoline and jet fuel and diesel, but most of the crude oil goes to Asia.
But this affects people like you and me in North America in 2 clear ways. One, even if Canada or the US isn't buying the specific barrel of oil on a specific ship traveling through the strait, the price Canadians and Americans pay for oil is largely set on the global market. The interconnected nature of this business is that oil prices aren't completely siloed geographically.
We've seen a huge uptick in the price we pay for gasoline here in Canada and around North America. And it's not because of what's happening in the Gulf has suddenly changed the value of the oil that was refined last week and the gas that's in your car. It's the cost for those producers, for those refiners to go out and find replacement oil to refine into gasoline. Once oil starts to move somewhere, it moves everywhere really quick.
So a major supply disruption anywhere translates into a price increase everywhere, even in countries like the United States and Canada that export oil. We all face the same global price.
But also consider if China is paying more for its oil because so much of it is now not reaching China. What do you think the trickle-down effect of that might be?
Oil is the lifeblood of modern civilization. It's embedded in the supply side of the economy. So airlines use it to transport people. Trucks bring the garden shares or steaks or fish or whatever you're buying in your grocery store. It's an input into manufacturing.
The vast majority of the oil Iran itself exports, almost 2 million barrels of oil a day, China buys almost all of it. These aren't insignificant amounts, and the longer this shutdown drags on, the more expensive it is likely to be for everyone.
It's not like, the price of chicken goes up, you can buy beef. But if the price of gasoline goes up, you still have to pay for the gasoline to get to work. So when the price goes up, it's like a tax. It's like a sudden big tax increase on businesses and on consumers.
As it drags on, those price increases, they're going to start to be reflected in how much money we have left in our wallets. It reduces the amount of money we have left to either invest or to pay down some debt or to spend on our everyday needs or the occasional luxuries.
We go 3-4 weeks or more, and traffic cannot resume through Hormuz. In that case, we will have oil prices well above $100 a barrel. They will likely contribute to a recession, an economic downturn.
The worst case scenario is whatever you could probably imagine and 10x it. We don't know. This could get very bad. This could wrap up in a couple of days.
So the bad news, if you're anyone but Iran, is that in the near term, the shutdown is controlled by Iran. The worst news is that if the strait doesn't reopen, there's not really anybody left unaffected. The silver lining, though, is that the world can tolerate a bit of shock.
So far, the price went up, and it went up a little bit, but it did not go up in a way that would correspond with a broader, longer, harder conflict. Oil markets right now are saying, we don't think this is going to last, and if it does, we're going to have to reassess where prices are pretty quick and pretty dramatic.
Right now, the world has a lot of excess oil, much of it provided by the US, which over the past decade has become the world's biggest producer of crude oil.
The United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world, anywhere on the planet. We're going to drill, baby, drill right away. Drill, baby, drill, and that's what we're doing. American natural gas production is at an all-time high because I kept my promise to drill, baby, drill.
And you can see evidence of that when you look at crude oil's price. During Israel's 12-day war on Iran last year, where you might have expected a big oil price shock, there really wasn't much of one. Same goes here, when the US captured Venezuela's president, the leader of the country with the world's largest proven oil reserves. There's a spike, but the kind of spike we've seen many times before. And even the most recent increase after the most recent strikes on Iran, just a fraction of what we saw, for example, back in 2022, when Russia's invasion of Ukraine caused the price of oil to surge.
I think fundamentally, oil markets believe that the power and the necessity of the oil market will overwhelm whatever the politics driving the attacks are. And once this starts to cost more people more money, they expect the military operation to subside, or they expect some kind of a side deal that will allow oil to continue to flow in spite of an ongoing, more limited conflict.
We do have a lot of safety cushion in the market in terms of spare capacity, but also the strategic reserves, petroleum reserves in some countries. They have not been used and demand is not growing rapidly.
But here's the thing. Like I said before, there's no telling for how long the supply of oil will be strangled at the Strait of Hormuz. As I speak, there are well over 100 ships whose crews have decided, along with their insurance companies, that they cannot take the risk of transiting through.
The main obstacle that's keeping ships from traversing the Strait of Hormuz is not weapons or threats or mines or anything else. It's insurance. Insurance companies have been really quickly scaling down the level of insurance they have, the kinds of insurance they have, and in some cases, the insurance policy entirely. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in cargo. They're not going to take the risk.
Now, can the U.S. mitigate that risk? Maybe. Donald Trump has just posted online an intent to provide a financial backstop. Though at the time we record this, there isn't a ton of detail. Just that no matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. But in the meantime, taking the long way around Africa is impractical, and the region's pipelines don't have anywhere near the throughput required to compensate for the loss of the strait. So the world waits for the fighting to stop.
We projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it.
So give it a month, maybe more.
You've probably felt the impacts of Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz from 8,000 miles away or so here in the U.S. over the last 11 days, paying an average of 56 cents more for a gallon of gas from when this war began.
Mines in the Strait of Hormuz happening amid the backdrop of the Trump administration threatening to, sort of rain down on Iran if they do anything in the Strait.
How relatively, note I use that word, easy it is for Iran to cause absolute mayhem, havoc, and chaos with the global shipping. You can give me all the insurance you like, but if it's not safe, I ain't sending my ships, my container ships, through the strait.
As we've been hearing, Iran has been striking oil tankers that are trying to travel through the narrow body of water known as the Strait of Hormuz. However, CNN and CBS, which is not a credible news source given who is at the head of the news operations over at CBS, they claim that Iran has been setting mines along the Strait of Hormuz, which I personally don't believe. Now, why don't I believe it? Well, because of the fact that Iran uses the Strait of Hormuz for their own economic purposes, so setting mines might not be the best idea. Plus, they are giving permission to their allies to use the Strait of Hormuz. So anyway, I just find that reporting and those claims a little suspicious. I don't have confirmation, but I think we should be a lot more skeptical of the news that we get from our legacy media platforms. But with that in mind, Donald Trump issued threats against the Iranians based on that reporting. He says that if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, then why are you putting this post up if there are no reports of them doing so? Anyway, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines are placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. And then he signs off. Later, though, he did revise that post and included the following. He wrote, additionally, we are using the same technology and missile capabilities deployed against drug traffickers to permanently eliminate any boat or ship attempting to mine the Hormuz Strait. They will be dealt with quickly and violently. Beware. Now, I want to be clear about something. The Strait of Hormuz issue tied to this conflict and war with Iran was entirely predictable. In fact, it was one of the warnings as Trump was, getting goaded to fight Iran on behalf of Israel. This is a bad idea. Iran is a civilization of 92 million people. They control the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about a region that's oil rich, gas rich. This could have a devastating impact on the global economy. Much of our fertilizer comes from that region of the world and travels through the Strait of Hormuz. So if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, that could even lead to a global food shortage, which would be devastating. But Trump did it anyway. So with that in mind, I do want to go to this video because, and it's B-roll, let's keep my mic up and I'll explain what you're looking at. Because Trump also claimed that, the US attacked and destroyed mine-laying vessels near the strait and later released video showing vessels getting bombed. That's what you are looking at. That's what's allegedly being shown in this footage. But there's a lot of other elements to the economic fallout that I want to discuss here because shipping companies have been resisting the use of the Strait of Hormuz as a result of this clear security threat. I mean, Iran has been targeting vessels attempting to sneak through the strait. So there's no question that Iran is targeting some of these vessels and oil tankers. However, Donald Trump is like, come on, what are you afraid of? I love how he uses rhetoric to try to get what he wants, but it's not working here because we're literally talking about insurance companies refusing to insure these vessels. We're talking about shipping companies who don't want to take the risk and potentially jeopardize their own crew by traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump's just like, oh, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? He tried to sweeten it a little bit by saying that our Navy will help escort the vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, thus protecting them from attacks from Iran. Now, never mind the fact that the US has not been capable of defending our Gulf allies as Iran targets US military installations and embassies throughout the Gulf region. Why is that? Well, because we depleted our interceptor missiles. So what remains of those missiles will be used by the United States to protect Israel and US troops that are in the region. By the way, those THAAD interceptor missiles are not as effective as Americans believed. So they are not good at shooting down drones. In some cases, I've seen video of several interceptors being deployed in order to take down a single missile. It's just a disaster of epic proportions, okay? But nonetheless, he's saying, we'll protect you guys. But now the Trump administration has egg on its face because of the fact that Energy Secretary Chris Wright claimed in a now deleted post on social media that the US Navy had successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. Wright said that the Navy successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz to ensure oil remains flowing to global markets. This post was accompanied by a video of Wright's remarks in Colorado on Monday, in which he referenced a tanker passing through the strait, but did not mention naval escorts. Now, the only problem here is that it never happened. It never happened. The Navy never escorted any vessel through the Strait of Hormuz, which is so unbelievably embarrassing. This is the reason why Wright took his social media post down. It is now deleted.
What's the latest trend in hiring? Skills-based hiring, which actually emphasizes capabilities over education and direct experience. According to experts, this leads to faster hiring and better job performance. Well, if you're an employer who's adopted skills-based hiring, the best way to ensure that your applicants have the right skills is ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter recommends smart screening questions to help you hone in on that perfect match for your role. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. ZipRecruiter has powerful matching technology to help discover qualified candidates quickly. They also make it easy for you to add their screening questions to your job posts so you get the highest quality applicants. That's what makes ZipRecruiter the #1 rated hiring site based on G2. Let ZipRecruiter help you find amazing candidates with the skills you seek. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked about it, and she herself conceded that the administration is full to the brim with incompetent liars. Take a look.
You explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though, of course, that's an option the president has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
Oh, the post was taken down relatively quickly. Okay, then I guess it's all right. It's just absolutely embarrassing. Now, aside from the troubles at the Strait, there are all sorts of other issues because of the fact that this war has spread. It is now a regional conflict. So Iraq has shut down some of their oil wells. Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia took similar measures to curtail oil production and gas production. In fact, Qatar halted operations at several gas wells and even shut down the liquefaction that's being carried out. That's used to process natural gas for export. So you guys get what I'm saying here, right? I mean, the situation is already dire, where the supply of oil and gas has been severely limited as a result of this conflict. And as we learned from Democratic members of Congress after their closed-door briefing on what's going on, the Trump administration had no plan to prepare for the economic repercussions of this war.
That part.
Just shooting from the hip. Who knows who spoke to Trump last? He's just going to go along with what that person had to say. This is not how you lead a country, and dragging our military into this conflict. We already have 7 soldiers gone, likely more that we don't know about yet. And we know that there are, at least 150 soldiers who were reportedly wounded, some critically, some minor wounds, but nonetheless, they shouldn't suffer any wounds, and no one in our military should be dying as a result of our conflict with Iran. Now, the situation has even gotten so dire that Trump has lifted some of the oil sanctions on Russia, which would allow some of our allies, like India, for instance, to export or to import oil from Russia. And today it was announced that the member countries in the International Energy Agency will release about 400 million barrels of oil to counter some of the soaring energy prices that we're already seeing. It will represent the largest release of reserves in the body's history and is more than twice the 182 million barrels of oil IEA countries released following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
Shit.
So that's the reality of the situation. It is devastating. But I want to reset to talk a little bit about something that isn't talked about really at all. But the reporting indicates that this could potentially be disastrous if this war drags on. I want to talk about the fertilizer crisis. So, the Iran war is apparently jeopardizing the global food supply. Now, you might be wondering, how is that even possible? Well, it's possible because much of the fertilizer that the world needs in order to grow food comes from that region of the world. And right now, the Strait of Hormuz is not really available for shipping fertilizer to various parts of the globe. Now, this is a little talked about consequence of this war against Iran. And this conflict is going to drive up the price of all sorts of chemicals, including fertilizers like urea, nitrogen, and ammonia. Now, these chemicals are critical for food production, and much of it is, in fact, produced in the Gulf region. So 5 primary fertilizer exporters, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE and Bahrain, rely heavily on the Strait of Hormuz to export their wares. And as we've learned, the Strait of Hormuz has been effectively shut down by the Iranians in retaliation for the US-Israeli attacks against them. Making matters worse, the United States stupidly went into this war right before the spring planting season. So how bad is this? Well, according to the New York Times reporting, and they tend to, provide cover for these types of conflicts, but even they had to admit, collectively, these countries supply more than 1/3 of the world's trade in urea, the dominant form of nitrogen fertilizer, as well as nearly 1/4 of another type, ammonia. According to data that was compiled by the International Fertilizer Association, the same 5 countries produce nearly 1/5 of phosphate fertilizers. So one major source of urea, Qatar Energy, halted production this past week when it lost access to natural gas after strikes from Iranian drones and missiles. But look, for the most part, believe it or not, factories are still producing fertilizer. It's just that the Strait of Hormuz is way more important than people suspected, I guess. So they're unable to transport the fertilizer. So yeah, production has been harmed a little bit, but the bigger issue is transporting the fertilizer. And they're having trouble shipping it. And we don't know how long this disastrous war is going to go on. So the longer it goes on, the bigger problem this becomes. So this does threaten the global food supply. And while wealthier countries will likely just pay a lot more for their food, meaning us, the United States, we will likely see even more inflation when we go to the grocery store. The real victims of all this are the poor and developing countries that stand to go hungry as a result of this.
Here you go.
And so we should also note that Trump did position the United States in a uniquely terrible position as this fertilizer shock hits the markets. Trump's tariffs had already raised the cost of imported fertilizer, forcing many farmers to hold off stocking up. The White House exempted fertilizers from its latest tariffs last month, but millions of tons of urea cannot quickly be summoned from points around the globe. So what are the experts saying about all of this? Well, why don't we go to Chris Lawson? He's the vice president of market intelligence and prices at the London-based commodities research firm known as CRU. He told the New York Times, quote, "It's bad. There's no other way of putting it. The world is highly reliant on fertilizer and associated raw materials supplied out of that region, meaning the Gulf." Jan William Earsman has a similar take. She's a chemical engineer and fertilizer expert at the Leiden University in the Netherlands. She concedes that the price of food will go up. So my fellow Americans, what do you think? Maybe it's just a small price to pay for a foreign country to hit its goals so they can expand their borders, annex land, and continue terrorizing the Middle East. Congratulations.
And ladies and gents, as you watch with me, these 3 awesome videos, once again, credits to Planet, VISTA, 4K, CBS News, and the Young Turks, ladies and gents. I'm telling you, man, this is... I was taking my glass off here because it's... Look, when shit hit the fan, when about to get a stomach ache, it's that type of... it's diarrhea. You know what I mean? It's like I say, it's getting crazy. Everything's go up, not just the cost of gas, ladies and gents. All the business, everything else rely on transportation. Transportation rely on fuel. The cost of fuel go higher, everything's go higher. You know, and this idiot in the pedophile on the White House has no clue. Now, I was watching some reports yesterday talk about he's already thrown Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller's on the bus because they're thinking about the Democrats, flip the House and the Senate, they're going to definitely going to exploit that, and all this thing that he's doing that is illegal. He said, "Oh, it wasn't me." Like Shaggy, I think Shaggy, you know, it wasn't me. That's Trump. Now soundtrack that's gonna be. He's going to put the blame on everybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's going to be worse. Believe me, I always like to see the glass half full. But like I said before, I was already prepared for the shit show in the fuck factory. These are what's going on in this country, right? Just give my personal example, that my personal experience. You know, last week my gas was $3.79. Now it was $3.99. I feel like yesterday. This morning, no, yesterday after get off work, I drive by another gas station on my way from work to the house. It's $4.01. So I know for sure by the end, but next Saturday, when I come to another episode, it's going to be even higher. You know, this man has no clue what he's doing in the White House. Innocent people are dying. As a matter of fact, let me just show one thing that show up on Facebook, and one second. Let me log in here on my phone real quick, and I will show you this picture over here. That's hold on. There you go. See if you can see right there. I don't know if it's getting blurry, but it say right here, Pentagon seeking $200 billion more for the Iran war, officials say. It say right here, the Secretary Pete Hegseth, aka Petey Whiskey, says Thursday that the Pentagon will ask Congress for more money to cover the Iran war, saying he wants to ensure current and future costs are covered above and beyond. A senior administration official confirmed that $200 billion request was sent from the Pentagon to the White House on Wednesday. So, ladies and gents, so they have like Tupac for that they have money for war, but they don't have money for the poor. So they shut it down. The big beautiful bill, you know, that is lauded the health care of a lot of people. Rural hospitals has a lot of them has been closed, and who's the most people that being affected? The MAGA people, the Republicans, the one that vote for him. Farmers shut it down, desperate. Now there's some fishermen here in Florida that are desperate. The cost, they all vote for Trump, and the cost of diesel is sky high. They are concerned that they can't continue their business. But like I say, they have the audacity to have the money, $200 billion for this stupid war. Meanwhile, you and I, the average Joe, are struggling. Which sense does that make? Zero. For the people that are conscious and the people that think about it, you know, they say this is ridiculous. But unfortunately, they said it still have a high level, a great number, not high level, but a great number of Americans that still believe this is buffoon in the White House care about them. Now, there's a survey that came on Fox. I don't believe Fox. But I'm just making, showing what's going on. The fact that the Fox state that 100% of the MAGA now still support Trump. To me, it's a lie, because I saw a couple videos now. Like I say, the fishermen here in Florida complain about it, mad they voted for Trump. You know, there's another video that I watched this week on the YouTube. People on Pennsylvania, some kind of county in Pennsylvania, they vote strongly for Trump. They interviewed this lady in the gas station, and she was mad. I voted for this piece of shit 3 times. You know what? F you, Trump. F you. That's exactly what she said. So for Fox News say that 100%, the MAGA 100% are to still support him, I disagree. Now, I'll probably say that maybe 50%, 55%, but there's a lot of people that finally now see that the door hit on the face. You know, they are really, really silly, feeling that, oh my God, this really, I did not vote for that. Yes, you did vote for that. The only difference because you vote that you thought that whatever's going on right now would not happen. It would happen just to black and brown people. That you would be exempt of the wrath. But now, homeboy, it's come for everybody right now. So I'm going to say, ladies, if it is Strait of Hormuz is still closed, this stupid ass war is still going on. Now, basically, Trump's war is going to be even worse. Now, situation of the TSA people not being paid in the airport, and then, for the record, the Democrats put in the package. Now let's fund the bill for the TSA, for the Coast Guard, and yada yada yada, and have the ICE bill separate, so we can fund these departments that need to have the money the right way. The Republicans, they say no, so the Republicans keep talking about this TSA, all this TSA issues. The Democrat fault as a lie. Once again, you have a lie in the White House, trickle down. The whole administration is garbage, ladies and gentlemen. The whole administration and the whole GOP, by exception one right now, like I said, that's the Senate, I think it's Congressman Mancy. That's the one that was pushing forward for the Epstein files to be released. And he still does that. So that's the only Republican right now at the moment that I know of it that I give you kudos and I salute, because he's the man that started pushing to release the Epstein file, and it's just some shit. And the whole administration is trash, in my point of view, ladies and gents. So I hope you enjoyed this video, ladies and gents. You know, try to do my best to find some great videos right here. Trip over this podcast episode if you like all these videos. The link of all the channels, the videos that I play are right there on the subscription. Go ahead and click on them subscription. Go ahead and the Planet VISTA 4K. Subscribe to the channel. CBS News and the Young Turks. Go ahead and subscribe to them because they also do a great work. All right. So, and click on the like button and subscribe to this channel and share with these 5 people you know. I appreciate your support. So, okay. So please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do and what you got. Salute. Enjoy your weekend with your family and friends. And I see you next Saturday. Holla!
Holding my down, sucker rappers get lost. Coming from the bottom, moving straight to the top.